Hi, West Boylston. This is Rick Simmarano. I'm doing a special broadcast of Community Matters today, and I've asked Dugan, Officer Jay Dugan, hi, good to see you, to come in, and also one of our Board of Selectmen and the chairman of the FISP committee, John Hadley. Good to see you. Just wanted to go over and answer some questions that may be out there, and maybe even some miscommunication out there, so we wanted to have them in today. But what I really want to do first off is talk about the deficiencies at the current station and what these officers are going through right now. So Jay, if you can kind of bring us through that.
Sure. Just to highlight again, we went over this last year, which explained why we needed the building as well. But just to refresh people, there is an issue with the asbestos in the building, which the town has already undertaken a large portion to mitigate that, and they are continuing to move forward with it. There's a huge lack of storage for evidence, for files, for equipment, lack of space to properly and fulfill the requirements by the state for interrogation and interviews as far as recording. We don't have that space right now. Training space, there's no place where officers can attend their in-service training. They have to do it off-site or hold classes which would keep them current into laws and updates from the Commonwealth. The safety for our public as well as our officers when we have to move prisoners. There's no toilet facilities in the basement, so they're required to bring them upstairs through the public entrance where people are sitting waiting to conduct their day-to-day business within the facility. We have no cells that we can properly hold somebody in, which is a major safety issue for the town and for the officers if somebody is to get hurt. Right now, there's a major amount of ADA compliance deficiencies within the building. The building has been, they've been told many times that they lack the compliance with the ADA, and because of the process that we're going through right now, they've agreed not to pursue some of those issues quickly because we're in the process of fixing those problems with the new facility, and that building would be fit to meet ADA requirements once the fire department occupied that space. So
they're taking it on good faith that we're in the process of being compliant.
Some of the other compliance issues that the state prisoner detention requirements, we don't have the ability to keep males, females, and juveniles out of sight and sound from each other. If we have multiple arrests with a male and a female, sometimes they're just put on a chair in a garage, or they have to be put in the same facility, which is a direct violation of some of these rules and requirements that are set up. Our department equipment, because of sometimes with combative or intoxicated prisoners, it's greatly at risk of being damaged, which has happened many times already where defendants and prisoners have smashed computer screens, knocked things off the counter, broken them, some of them costing thousands and thousands of dollars at the taxpayers' expenses. Our booking conditions, again, anyone that's ever been in there, it's a very tiny, small space. I can tell you that officers have been hurt. Recently, officers have been hurt wrestling with people in there. It's very unsafe. It lacks the size to properly and safely detain a prisoner or a mental health person that we have to detain till we can find a place to put them. Again, the bathrooms, they have to bring them upstairs to the second floor, bringing them past two doors which they can physically escape from, bringing them past, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, our mothers, our grandmothers, our fathers, our brothers and sisters that are sitting on benches waiting for services from the police department, the fire department, or the ambulance. As far as housing our prisoners, we still have to ship them away. We don't have any place right now where we can hold them, so we have to pay another agency to house our prisoners while we try and get them in front of the courts. Sometimes officers, again, they're forced to issue a summons in lieu of an arrest because there's no place to hold them, which potentially is putting some serious criminals back on the streets that need to be held and secured, but without a facility to hold them, we're forced to issue a summons. The liability to the town, as far as officers being injured, this is preventable. If we can have a safe environment for the officers to work in, to conduct the required routine day-to-day business, there's less liability. If an officer's injured, they have to pay that officer out while he's injured, then they have to pay to fill his shift. And then if it's the defendant who's injured because of some of the size constraints, they're gonna be looking for monetary values being suing the town and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we talked about last year. These still exist. These haven't been fixed. So the physical need is still there. And what we're going to talk about today is why we had to come back and ask for more monies.
So, why is there going to be a special election needed for in the town meeting? Why can't we just vote? What's that whole thing about?
Well, the easiest way, because we don't have the money, so we're going to have the funds need to come out of a vote outside of limits of Proposition 2.5. So we have to have a special town meeting and a special election after the town meeting, and they both have to have a positive vote for this to go forward, because we don't have the money in our coffers to do it.
So, what's the cost to the town to hold this special election? I mean, what's that cost us?
Right around $4,300.
And this is what we have to do, bylaws and...
By Mass General Law, we have to do this. We have no other choice.
Yeah. So the revised tax impact is estimated at 49 cents per thousand. So what would cause the estimate to change, and how much would it change?
Okay, the revised police station plan is now estimated to cost $4,985,000. Is approximately $2.1 million more than the original conceptual plans. It should be noted, however, this impact will not increase your tax bill, as we have current debt which is coming off the tax roll, and this new debt will replace it.
So the building size is increased by 16%, and the town said that the original building plan met all the stated needs for a safe prisoner handling, separate cells for male and female and juvenile detainees, interrogation rooms, file and evidence storage, large offices and meeting rooms, vehicle bays, etc. Officials said that the building was also designed for future growth, so what's missing?
Well, the original plans, those were conceptual plans that were prepared by the original architect that the town had hired. They didn't include adequate square footage for all the equipment storage, for communications equipment, for the fitness room, which is something that's going to be utilized in the future as, future expansion. That would be the first thing that would be gone to make expansion for files or any other areas that need to be expanded upon. There wasn't adequate garage space for the vehicles, for the Sally Port, etc. Our original cost estimates, they didn't include the cost of the prevailing wages, which must be for the municipal construction. At the time, the municipal wages were much different than what they are right now. And that was over 2 years ago.
Yeah. So the September 18th banner article said that we'd be choosing mid-grade materials in part to reduce maintenance costs. That sounds counterintuitive. Usually the higher grade materials reduce maintenance. So can you explain what that's all about?
Sure. Like the choice being made on the building materials, it's kind of a key component in reducing the maintenance cost of a new building. Just like an example, buying a quality vinyl siding as well as maintenance-free trim boards. Those are going to be used rather than the more costly composite types of woods we have to do more maintenance on. In the areas, the high traffic areas for the flooring, they'll be using vinyl tile or vinyl plank boards. Vinyl clad wood windows, they're low maintenance, they're energy efficient, which is obviously going to save the town some money over the long haul. Areas subject to abuse, like as the booking and the detention areas, they're going to have a much more durable concrete surface or block construction, whereas now we have drywall and plaster, which is constantly being needed to be repaired.
Well, I can imagine any sort of wear and tear or agitated suspect would
resistant people.
Yeah. So beside the building materials, what else is going to be done to reduce maintenance cost in this new building?
Throughout the building, they're using LED lighting, which is going to help with future energy costs and lighting replacement. They're using an automated building management system, which is going to operate the HVAC system, making schedule maintenance and troubleshooting a little bit faster and easier. The town's gonna utilize the existing department and staff as much as possible to minimize some of these costs.
So who are the owners, project manager, the OMP we hired? Who are these people?
We hired Cardinal Construction of Worcester, a local company, very well recommended and highly recommended, as a matter of fact. They've done a lot of these police projects around this area.
Yeah. So how did we choose the OPM people, and what experience do they have? You know, as far as, you know, what were some of the key things that made us go with them?
They even work with them.
Well, Cardinal Construction, they assigned Tony DeLuzio as their person to oversee our project. Tony has over 20 years' experience in the project management of municipal buildings, with the majority of his experience is dealing with public safety facilities and construction. So Tony's very well versed in public safety buildings, the requirements that are needed to fulfill the state obligations, the state requirements for the buildings, and things are different. Public safety buildings are a lot different than your regular home construction. So there's a lot more requirements. And what the town has done is they've actually put a link on their website with information so people can actually look up the references that we have with or regarding Cardinal Construction.
And that's right on the town website?
It is. Anita has put that on, I think it was the Board of Selectmen's section throughout there, or the town manager section.
So are there any OPM fees tied to the size of the project?
No. The OPM fees, they're negotiated prior to the building being designed, and that's something that's locked in for the construction phase of the contract.
So they can't inflate it regardless of
Correct.
square footage or whatever might change?
Yeah, theirs isn't based on square footage, theirs is based on a negotiated contract with the Board of Selectmen. And he's working to protect the best interests of the town. He's not working for the contractor, he works for us.
So how did we choose this, the Renhard and Associates?
Reinhardt was chosen from a state mandated request for proposal. So we've had 7 proposals, and with their qualifications, we thought that they were the best one for the town. And their experience in helping communities keep the project budget manageable throughout the design and construction phase was a big area for us, because we wanted to make sure they came in on budget and on time.
So are there any fees tied to the Renhard people due to the size of the project? Do they inflate at all?
No, we have a contract, we have a signed contract with them for the project. And right now, the OPM fees is $36,725, and the architect fee up through September 28th is $255,010.
So how were the construction firms chosen out of the whole process?
Well, the state, under Mass General Law 149, the state mandates procurement sealed bid process is open to any qualified contractor who wishes to submit a bid on the project. The project is advertised locally in the state central register publication, which is all the contractors, they get to look at that and they find projects in which they want to bid on. Our general contractor bids are due October 5th, at which time at that point we will know the actual firm construction price for what our project is going to cost, right down to the penny.
So how were the bids analyzed, and whose project was that? Who's the person that went through that?
Okay. Construction contractors were by state law must be chosen by a sealed bid process. The community must choose the lowest bid as long as the contractor is proven to be responsible, responsible, meaning that they have adequate references and no track record of poor performances from previous projects.
So to clarify that, what that means, Rich, is everyone says you got to take the lowest bidder. In reality, you have to take the lowest qualified bidder. If somebody has a bad track record, somebody does poor quality, somebody has a lot of complaints, things lodged against them, you don't actually have to take that contractor just because they came in as the low bidder.
Well, that's smart. So the bids were, the question I asked though was, the bids were analyzed by who? How did the process happen, and who,
What we did is, our general contractor bids, they will be reviewed by the FISP.
But we haven't got the bids open yet. So October 5th, we will have the bids.
okay,
So the Tony from Cardinal Construction, and the architect sends out what they want to bid on. And then the people who bid on them give us the bids, and that's when we open them, that's when we know exactly how much it is.
so just just that group, or the Board of Selectmen, who actually,
So the FISP committee, they're the ones that are gonna overall review all the documents.
Right.
They'll review them, then we sit down with the architect and our project manager to ensure that all the bids have the required documents, they have all the acceptable references, and that's when we can find out if there's any track record of poor performance. So with the help of everybody on the FISP committee, our project manager and the architect, we're all gonna sit down and we're gonna review these documents page by page to make sure that everybody has all the required documents, that there are no problems with their past performances, with the projects they've done, and as a whole, we'll make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen at that point would award a bid.
And Rich, just so I can add, the FISP committee is made up of the 5 selectmen and 6 other residents of West Boylston. And it's also a public meeting, we're open, every one of our meetings is open to the public, so if anybody wanted to come, it's every, last Wednesday of every month, it's at the town hall, the second floor in the selectmen's room.
I know we're planning on recording
Right.
those in
We asked them to
the
record.
future, so
Yeah.
we're gonna get some of those so everyone in town
Can see what's going on.
can be part of that, yeah.
Everything's open, there's no closed, nothing closed doors or anything like that, everything's wide open for the public, for everything.
So what town official or board will be responsible for managing the risk project, and will it be accountable for its overall performance?
The Facilities Implementation and Strategic Planning Committee, the FISP committee, will be responsible and accountable for any oversights on this project. And like I said before, the members are the 5 members of the Board of Selectmen and 6 residents of the town make up the FISP committee.
Well, you guys really informed me on a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and hopefully West Boylston, you heard a lot of the answers of questions that you've been having about this up and coming project. So I want to thank you both again for stopping by.
Thank you, Rich.
I'm sure if there are any future questions and future inquiries that these guys are available in some way, shape, or form, probably an email would probably be the best way, and we can go ahead and put out any.
We'd love to have everybody email any questions right to the Board of Selectmen or Anita, who's the town administrator. Either one of us, and we'll get them back to them with an answer as soon as possible.
So we'd just like to, in closing, we just want to remind everybody that the need for this building, it's urgent, and because of the liability that exists to the town, it's very much a necessity that we move forward with this project. Because we've talked about it in the past, some of the deficiencies and the things that we're lacking in our building. Compliance is going to be forced upon us at some time because of the regulations and the statutes that we can't currently follow within the shell of that building. It's not physically possible to obey them. So at some point, the state or some of these other committees and boards will force compliance upon the town, and that may not be the right time for financially for the town to do it. After speaking with our financial people, they're saying that this is the right time to do this project and to go forward with it. The safety to the public, the safety to our police officers and our town's employees that come in within that building. Currently, it's very dangerous in that. They're exposed to many dangers with prisoners, with ADA non-compliance within the building. There's a lot of deficiencies where everybody's exposed to some liability. And the one thing that we at the FISP committee wanted to explain to everybody is that the senior center planning, it's still going forward, it hasn't been stopped, and that this project isn't going to stop the progress and the planning of that senior center project.
Right. Well, I mean, there are many projects and many things that this town needs, and this is right at the top of the list along with the senior center. And if we want to put a shout out for public swimming, a public swimming pool, we'll go ahead and throw that in there too. But this is just a no-brainer. I know people on both sides of the fence and want to weigh in on the needs and things like that, but public safety, our police officers, our people that are protecting us need to be protected, and this community needs to be protected, and this is just a no-brainer in my humble opinion. So thank you again, West Boylston, for joining us. My name is Rich. Oh,
can I just add one thing? The cost of this project in the last 2 years has risen $450,000. So if we don't do it now, it's going to go up even more. So now's the right time to do it. We can't delay it anymore, because in 2 years we've already had an increase of $450,000 the cost of the project. So every time we delay, it costs us more money. And these bids and these projections are with the increases for next to 2018. Right, Jay?
Yes.
2018.
I know the point's been made before. I think Jay had made it in past meetings. One lawsuit is going to make the whole story change drastically.
Absolutely.
And the liability that we're at right now with the poor conditions that the station's in, that we currently are using, is just for that moment waiting to happen. It's not even a question of if it will happen. It's a question of when it will happen, and only because of our trained officers that we haven't had an incident and a lawsuit yet. So, like I said, no brainer.
And Rich, we're also holding 6 open public meetings throughout the town, which is also published on the town's website, which we encourage people to show up at. Again, there'll be more opportunities to ask questions. They'll be able to see formal documents, presentations of the building that's going to be presented, layouts of the property, and members of the committee. We will all be there, so that people, if they do have questions that they haven't submitted, that we can probably answer those at that point.
Where are those dates for those meetings?
Those are on the town website as well.
That's on the town website?
Yes.
Right. So what I'd like you, West Boylston, to do is to be ahead of the curve, to show up at these meetings, to be involved in this process, in this situation, as it's at this stage. More often than not, being part of the town and going to town meetings and having a lot of people come in after the fact, after all this work has been done, after all these committees have already met, people coming in and having questions and having opposition to projects or whatever is very frustrating. So if you want to be heard and you find this your voice would be served well in this procedure, then show up at these meetings and be part of the process at this stage, not later on, not just come later on. That's what I would encourage you to do. So again, my name is Rich Simmarano. This Community Matters. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.